call this Monday, December 9th, 2024 meeting of the Concord City Council into order. Would you all please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councillor Brown.
Here.
Mayor Champlin.
Present.
Councillor Fennessy.
Present.
Councillor Foote.
Present.
Councillor Grady Sexton.
Here.
Councillor Horn. Here. Councillor Keach.
Here.
Councillor Kretovic.
Here.
Councillor Kurtz.
Here.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Excused.
Councillor McNamara.
Here.
Councillor Schlosser.
Here.
Councillor Schultz.
Here.
Councillor Sekou.
Present.
And Councillor Todd.
Here. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of our November 12th, 2004 City Council meeting?
So, second.
Moved and seconded. Any modifications, changes? Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The minutes are adopted. I would now like to welcome forward the Capital Region Food Program representatives. Welcome.
Good evening.
Yeah. I have a resolution to read for you,
Wonderful.
and then we'd love to hear from you.
Okay.
This is one of the traditions, this is one of the holiday season traditions that I really, really enjoy. And it's good to see that my head is cut off for the people at home. That's the best, that's the best.
Go that way.
Yeah. Resolution number 9,689, City of Concord. Resolution proclaiming December 2024 as Capital Region Food Program Month. Whereas the Capital Region Food Program is an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization established in 1974 because of the grave problem of hunger in the greater Concord area. And whereas the Capital Region Food Program marks its 51st consecutive year in providing food for those who experience food insecurity through its holiday project. And whereas refinements in this project are a continuous process improvement. Originally in 1974, the baskets provided enough food for the Christmas holidays alone and evolved into providing enough food for the holiday meal plus up to 3 weeks of additional meals. With the changing landscape, the Capital Region Food Program made another adjustment with launching its holiday voucher pilot project in 2022 and adopting this model in 2023, moving forward as the holiday project. Recipients are able to select the food items most appropriate for their family, being mindful of their needs, including but not limited to food sensitivities, gluten-free, low sodium, low fat, vegetarian, vegan, and other dietary restrictions. And whereas the program has expanded operations to include year-round distribution to area food pantries and soup kitchens supporting their great work, which is accomplished by purchasing and distributing at no cost to the participating agencies enough food to provide over 5,900 meals per month. And whereas COVID-19 caused the CRFP to re-engineer its holiday food basket project and its evolution into the holiday project model, the Capital Region Food Program has continuously adhered to and aligned with its values, which include collaboration, cooperation, responsibility, mindfulness, safety, and community consideration. In keeping with these values, the 2024 Holiday Project continues to make proactive steps to maximize safety and helping those in need, while still accomplishing its mission of assisting individuals and families in need. It has realized a 25% increase for the past 2 years, with predictions of another 15% increase this year. And whereas the impact of this all-volunteer organization, community-wide effort has resulted in over 3,600 tons of food having been distributed to the food insecure in Concord and surrounding 17 communities over the past 50 years, with items purchased valued in excess of $3,730,000. In addition, CRFP has redistributed donated food items with a value estimated at $1,600,000 $675,000. The combined value of purchased and donated foods exceeds $5,405,000. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the month of December be designated Capital Region Food Program Month in the city of Concord, and be it further resolved that our community be encouraged to participate, contribute, and support the Capital Region Food Program now and throughout the year, approved by City Council November 12th, 2024. Byron O. Champlin, Mayor.
Thank you.
Come on.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Elena Aloyas. I'm the current chair of the Board of Trustees for the Capital Region Food Program. With me is Jennifer Carlton. She is our vice chair. I have the honor clearly of serving as chair. I've been involved with the program my entire life. I am the third generation to be involved. It was my grandfather that started the organization. Our family has an inside joke that this is essentially the family business. We thought it was going to be a clothing store. It has become this 51 years later. But in all seriousness, we're obviously incredibly proud of all the work that's been accomplished over the last 51 years. For this year's holiday project, we have about 2,200 families that we'll be servicing in Concord and the surrounding 17 communities. That equates to about 7,000 individuals. And based on the research that we have over the last couple of years since making the change to this voucher program, we have found, thankfully, validation in what we were hoping to see is we're still making a big impact. We're fulfilling our mission. But we've actually seen that with the 6-week period of time that people are allowed to use their vouchers at their local market baskets, which is the middle of December, December 14th, through January 31st of 2025, we see about 45% of the recipients use their voucher between the day they get it and the 25th of December. About 10% use it from the 26th of December to the end of the year, the 31st, and another 45 use it in January. So what that's really shown us is we've been able to expand and really provide the opportunity for recipients to use the voucher when they need it, while also being able to provide the opportunity to get what they need. Mayor Champlin had spoken through all the different ways that people can accommodate dietary restrictions and needs, and there were a number of things that we wouldn't have been able to predict and then include in the prior food baskets. For example, we have a lot of elderly recipients that will get pre-made meals because it's so much easier for them to cook, or even much softer foods, including baby food, because some have a lot of dental issues. We would have never thought to include baby food or have the ability on large scale to include those pre-made meals in the boxes. So we're certainly very proud of the evolution we've been able to make. We have some playful banter with our current chair of the project, because sometimes the words out of our mouth are thank goodness for the COVID-19 pandemic, which we have to reframe that for anyone that's listening too carefully. But for us, it was a real opportunity to get where we are today that wouldn't have happened if that hadn't come. Obviously, it was not something to celebrate in that regard, but it was, at least for our organization, a silver lining that we've been able to evolve and come out on the other end. We're also anticipating, while we'll see an increase this year, that we might see even more next year, because there could be changes on the federal level to the different types of programs that are offered to individuals, and that might be pushed more for state and local community responsibilities. So as a board and an organization, we're actively watching for those and seeing in what ways we can continue to step in and provide that support and a resource for those that need it. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Councilor Kurtz.
For individuals watching the meeting tonight, where and what are the best ways for them to contribute to your organization?
Thank you. Well, if anyone happens to be attending the business after hours tomorrow evening with the chamber, the registration is waived in order to allow the opportunity to provide a donation to the Capital Region Food Program. You can also donate directly on our website. That's capitalregionfoodprogram.org, and we have just a donate button and a QR code right there on the site. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Kurtz.
Schultz.
I knew I wasn't going to do it, and I did. I'm sorry. Councilor Kurtz.
I'm officially
Schultz. Sorry.
So I'm curious to know, can we also let folks know if they are food insecure, how they would access your services?
Sure. So for the holiday voucher project, at this point, we have all of the names already submitted and prepared. They're accessing it through our local partner agencies. Those are some of our welfare offices, local churches, things like that. During the calendar year, January through November with our year-round distribution project. If they seek services through Concord Human Services, through locations like Christ the King Parish and those sorts, we're providing the different items for them to stock their shelves at that point.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No questions or comments? Councilor
It's
Secretary.
not a question, but thank you guys for all you do.
You're welcome.
Add my thanks. I think that the Capital Region Food Program as a grassroots, born in Concord, continuing in Concord, nonprofit, as you say, all volunteer, reflects the best in our community. It reflects that spirit of rolling up your sleeves and trying to help people, that spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and community that is so important to us and I think so unique to our city. And as someone who knew your grandfather and has known your mom and dad, and now see you step into the leadership role, with the board and the administration of the food program, I'm just very, very proud. I mean, geez, I knew you when you were in elementary school.
Basketball coach.
And I was a basketball coach, which I apologize for. I was. But somebody had to step forward and do it. But I was very proud of your team. You were a great team, and I was very proud to be your coach. And I'm very proud of you today and of the work that your organization is doing. So on behalf of the city and the city council, if they'll allow me, thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have something for you.
Well, thank you.
There's a cat.
Lady, you want to go around this?
Some heavy lifting.
Your work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
For what you're doing.
You're welcome.
Thanks for all you do. You have coal fire.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much. You're doing awesome stuff.
Thanks so much. Nice to meet you. Great work.
Yeah. Yes, everyone.
I know that, but I feel like I should keep saying thank you to everyone. Standing upright, so stressful, there's a camera. Thank you very much. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Now I'd like to invite representatives of the Library Foundation, Concord Public Library Foundation. Welcome, Wendy. If you just, introduce yourself for the record.
Right. My name is Wendy Follansby, and I am a resident of Pennacook. And good evening to the mayor and everybody on the council and all your wonderful staff. I'm a champion of the Concord Public Library, especially the Pennacook branch. And I'm here tonight with my friend Jeannie West. And we are both volunteers with the Concord Public Library Foundation. And we want to thank the mayor for inviting us to come back. We appreciate that. And as a resident of Pennacook, I would like to thank you all and your predecessors who, for the beautiful building that now houses our Pennacook branch and our community center. The village of Pennacook is very excited. That's why I was 5 minutes late and missed your whole opening, because I had all these people on the street going, "It's wonderful, it's wonderful." So,
We missed you.
they were just so excited and I had to stop. And so anyway, but we're very grateful for you having this happen, making this happen for Pennacook. And from the time the council decided to move ahead with this project to the grand opening last week, it was less than 2 years. That's impressive. It's praiseworthy. You should pat yourself on the back. I was thrilled almost to tears. As a council, I hope you're very proud of the 2 library branches that we have. In the future, they may come in very handy when sections of the main library have to be closed for renovation. So I mean, I think it's pretty cool that you have 2 buildings to back up with. If you haven't been to the Pennacook branch yet, I encourage you to do that. We're going to give you a little packet at the end for your personal file on the libraries, and it has the dates and all kinds of stuff in it for you. When the Library Foundation visited with you earlier in the year, we thanked you for supporting the city's plan to renovate and expand the main library in the future, which is currently part of your capital improvement plan starting in 2027. We appreciate your continuing support for the project. We want to remind you that you have in the Library Foundation, which is Jeannie and I and about 15, 20 other people, a dedicated group of volunteers that are ready and eager to partner with the city on this project over the next few years. And as city leaders, you are actively engaged, I know, in discussions, and you have a lot on your plate about several other aging buildings in Concord, and as you know, the library fits into that category too. It will be needing attention. We want to make sure it gets the attention before it becomes a problem. And so thank you for keeping the library in the forefront as you juggle the many capital projects that I know you're juggling. We get it. One of the actions that you took as a council last year, for those of you who were here last year, that I am very personally grateful for, is the ambulance issue in Pennacook. You listened and you heard the concerns of the people that were saying, you're gonna take away the ambulance, really? And you're putting more people in? And you heard the concerns and you fixed the problem. So thank you. And we have a very amazing city staff that supports you, and I believe that you're all gonna figure it out. You figured out so many other problems, you just figure it out. And the foundation has been raising money for the library renovation and expansion for over 20 years. And our volunteer corps stands ready to help when you're ready. And now I'll let Jeannie introduce herself, and we'll pass something out after she's done.
Thank you all again for having us here tonight. It's really a pleasure and a privilege. So my name's Jeannie West, and I'm relatively new to Concord. We moved here in April of 2019. And my husband and I are both retired educators. We wanted to get closer to our children and grandchildren. So one son is here in Concord, and he came shortly after college about 16 years ago and kept saying how wonderful it was, and you have to come. And our other son's in Exeter, so we're from Peterborough, so it's a lot easier to be with our kids living here, and we haven't looked back. Peterborough is a fabulous place to live. It was a great place to raise our children, but we still haven't looked back. We love Concord so much. So as we get closer just to the idea of renovating and expanding the library, I just want to tell you a little bit about my experience when I lived in Peterborough. After I retired from the school district, I worked for the Conville district. I was elected to serve on the Board of Trustees at the Peterborough Town Library. During that time, along with a group called the 1833 Society, which is basically like the foundation here, we started a capital campaign to build a new library. We had a highly motivated and dedicated group of people. We had done a feasibility study. We had interviewed town residents over the course of several years to kind of get a vision for what they wanted in a library. We kept everybody's responses and used them to create a community vision of a library for the future. As soon as we had raised the funds to hire an architect, we had a goal. Our goal was like $9.5 million for our little library there. But as soon as we had raised the money to hire an architect, at the same time, we had a consultant whose career had been in development. And that person came and met with us and taught us all about how to do the campaign, how to go out and make the ask. So in doing that, we started talking to people in the Monadnock region, and we would take our preliminary drawings so that we could have a discussion about what it might be like. During that time, lots of questions came up about the need for a library in the digital world today. We stood by the idea that having a central place in our community where people can gather and seek information, work together, and learn together is paramount. Our citizens responded in kind, and as a result, with over 900 donors, we raised $5.5 million. In addition, and at the same, all throughout this time, we worked closely with the town administrators. And again, the structure there is very different than here because it's a smaller town, obviously. But we kept them abreast of our progress and the potential support we might need. So to make a long story short, we had a vote in town, and the townspeople came and voted to raise a $3 million bond to get us closer to our need. So by 2021, we held an opening ceremony. We broke ground in, I think, late 19, early 2020, and we had our opening ceremony, and our community vision for a beautiful, updated library with light-filled rooms was realized, and now it's a central dynamic focal point in our community there. So here, I just wanted to share that in 2012, and sorry, my mouth is really dry. 2012 and 13.
There's water.
Is it okay?
Yes, of course it
I
is.
It's water
I
in New
think I
Hampshire.
had too much skinny popcorn for my snack
It
this
truly is the
afternoon.
best water. It truly is the
least it
best
was
water in
skinny.
New Hampshire.
Oh, good.
We have the facts to show.
I tried to get the water fountain to work, but it didn't work. Sorry. And you can see I'm nervous. Okay, so over here, thank you, Wendy. In 2012 and 13, the city bought property on Prince Street for possible future expansion for the library site. And then in 2019 and 20, a committee of Concord Public Library staff, trustees, and foundation members selected architects. I'm not going to pronounce this name properly. Anyway, to create conceptual needs. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. So at the same time, so far this year, we have 240,000 visits to the Concord Public Library. We've circulated 325,000 items. We have 11,000 current resident card holders and 78 non-resident card holders. So, in conclusion, my husband and I got very lucky when we moved to Concord because we immediately met lovely, wonderful, inclusive people. And as a result, I serve on a variety of committees and involved in some initiatives. But my passion really is helping people make connections with each other, with books and literature, music, art, and with their many interests, both professionally and personally. And I am honored to be part of the Concord Public Library Foundation, where once again, I might have the opportunity to work with this highly talented and dedicated group of people to create a shared vision for Concord. So thank you very, very much, and we really appreciate being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Can you take questions?
Could I have more water?
You may have unlimited amounts of water.
Oh, good.
Questions?
Questions?
I'll just add something.
Yes,
If I,
the city manager.
so on next month's city council agenda, just don't forget there's an item, you'll remember this, you and I both remember this. In 2003, we added air conditioning to the library.
Yes.
And it's up for, it needs a lot of work. So there's an item on the agenda next month. If you and your group would like to provide some public input to that, to actually, if we want to have air conditioning again this summer, it'd be important to let the council know that you're in favor of air conditioning next summer.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before you go,
Yes.
let me thank you on behalf of the city council. Thank you for your work. Wendy, thank you for your faith in us. Jeannie, thank you for coming to Concord, to becoming involved in the community, and for all the kind things that you've said. I've heard that from so many people who have arrived in town over the last 5 to 10 years. And I just want to say welcome, and it's very gratifying again to see you jumping into the community and being part of making us a better city. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And if anybody ever wants a field trip to the Peterborough Town Library, I'm happy to take it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
At the start of our meeting, I failed to remind people that if you have difficulty hearing, there are headphones available at the Concord TV booth, which is the dark booth in the back of the room, that can help you hear tonight's meeting. With that, we will move to the consent calendar. I'll note that item 23 has been pulled from consent by Councilor Brown. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consent calendar is passed. Madam City Clerk, this moves us to the public hearing portion of our meeting. Item 32A, please.
Yes, it's a resolution appropriating the sum of $500,000 for the construction of a new skate park at Kiwanis Riverfront Park and accepting the sum of $500,000 of Land and Water Conservation Fund grants for this purpose.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Your Honor, members of the council, in fiscal year 22, the city council approved funds to create a new park master plan for the Kiwanis Riverside Park and the Everett Arena site. In late fiscal year 2022, a new park master plan was approved. In fiscal year 23, funds were approved by city council for the design and permitting of the complex. In the new master plan, there was a larger skateboard park in the general area of the former fire training facility. Council at the November 23 meeting authorized me to apply for the Land and Water Conservation Grant for up to $500,000. This report and resolution are to accept the grant that we received in the amount of $500,000. The Land and Water Conservation Grant has a 50-50 match requirement. We'll be working with the nonprofit Concord Skate Park Association community partners to help raise the match requirement. We're asking City Council to accept the grant award. However, we will not be moving forward with construction until the matching dollars are received. We have 4 years to complete the project and can extend an additional year with an agreement from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. As part of the acceptance of the grant award, the city will be required to comply with the Build America, Buy America, Build America requirements, and the land must forever be set aside for public recreation purposes, and this will require a 2/3 vote majority for approval. Yeah, and you do have received, the city clerk sent around to you this afternoon, the tremendous amount of public testimony that came in for this, so you have that in your packet.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to testify on item 32A? Seeing none, I close the public hearing on item 32A. Madam City Clerk, item 32B.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $405,000 for police department retention payments for sworn police officers and authorizing the use of general fund balance of $405,000.
Mr. City Manager.
Members of the council, this would be part 2 of a temporary police officer retention program, a stopgap measure for future to reduce future employee loss. This retention program will aim to reward our current sworn officers who have taken on drastically increased workload during the staffing crisis. The retention program is designed to slow the turnover rate, which will allow the department time to recover from that crisis. And again, this requires a 2/3 majority vote.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none? I'm sorry, Councilor Kurtz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we approved a similar package, or the previous council, I was not on the council at the time, approved a similar package last year. And I'm wondering, I did not see in the report any data about the effect of that? How useful that was or efficacious?
No, would you like the police chief to speak to that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Have the question again?
Yes, thank you so much.
Welcome, Chief.
I was asking what the department or the city did to track data on how effective this similar appropriation was last year in terms of meeting the goals stated for recruitment, retention, or et cetera.
Right, so I think the first one was last October, and it expired in April. During that period of time, we lost, I bring my notes, I think it was eight officers, 2 retirements, 1 disability retirement, and a couple actually left after that April period. They left in July and August.
Beyond the 8 or within that 8?
Within the 8.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up?
How does that compare to a previous year? What, in your opinion, was this pay successful?
It
in the
was,
stated goal?
because in calendar year 2023, we lost 19 police officers, and I think the year prior to that, it was 15.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Any other questions for the city manager? Right, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify on item 32B? Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please identify yourself.
So my name is Alan Robitis. I just prepared this in the, for time reasons. It'd be easier to read it.
Sure, go right ahead.
So my name is Alan Robitis. I'm a resident of Ward 5 here in Concord. I'm a small business owner in the city, and I also must disclose that I'm a battalion chief with Concord Fire Department assigned to Battalion 3. I'm here tonight along with many of my peers of Concord Fire Officers Association to show our support of this motion. I'm not here to represent the fire department in any way, shape, or form, but must admit that my time spent working for the city has shaped many of my viewpoints on a number of professional and social topics, as you might imagine. As most of you probably are aware, there's no working relationship that's more important to firefighters than the one we share with the police officers. Together, these two departments work seamlessly to provide public safety for our community. When we respond to incidents with the members of CPD, we know that we can rely on them, and likewise they can rely on us. As a 23-year veteran of the department, I can say I have seen my fair share of police officers come and go, but I don't feel there's ever been a time where I so frequently respond to an incident and the patrolman looking back at me as a stranger, or an officer that I know who says they are working another double. I can't quote you the exact numbers. I'm sure you already have those. Hopefully they've been provided to you. But if the situation at the police department is anything like what's happening across all public safety entities, it is nothing short of debilitating. I can't begin to tell you what a morale killer it is for coworkers to put countless hours into new employees' training, only to see them leave and return to their old employer, their old department, find a new department, become a nurse, a utility worker, a recreation worker, somebody in the hospitality industry. These are just some of the scenarios I have witnessed over the last few years. I'm sure the list from CPD would be equally as impressive. I'm certain that individual department heads, city administration, and this council would all agree that maintaining an appropriate work-life balance is critical to maintaining a healthy workforce. I'm not quite familiar enough with the recruitment retention request from the police department, specifically pertaining to its assistance in allowing our officers a healthy amount of time off. But if we are to force our officers to work extra hours, at times against their wishes, then I find it only appropriate to turn every stone to get them the compensation they deserve. Whether it be in the form of a retention bonus, longevity bonus, merit bonus, overtime compensation adjustment, call it what you want. If they are the employees burdened with inadequate staffing, the least we could do is reward their efforts in compensation. Additionally, the citizens of Concord deserve departments where the employees can be retained long enough to develop the experience, expertise, and relationships necessary to properly serve the community in their time of need. Now for the difficult part. Everyone knows successful recruitment and retention isn't cheap. So I applaud the city for opening up the general fund to get this done. This would show a commitment to its employees and provide continued service that the citizens have come to rely upon. I also find it inspiring as to the open-mindedness the city shows in supporting public safety recruitment and retention initiatives through various bonus structures. I implore the council to pass this resolution and show the due respect your employees deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Rubitis. Any questions? Councilor Kritovic.
I don't have a question, but a statement. Thank you so much for your service to the city of Concord and especially for coming and speaking to the council tonight.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Much appreciated.
Awesome.
Councilor Sekou.
Thank you. Thank you for this statement. My question, because you mentioned work-life balance, and we all know retention is not only based on pay. Are there other elements that you can highlight to help us really maintain our law enforcement here? Because we can pay them how much money. If certain elements are not completed, we still are going to be in the same bucket we are in today.
I mean, not being a police officer directly, it's hard for me to speak directly to the struggles they have, but I can certainly say adequate staffing and an appropriate workload would be a common thread for that. I've heard countless times over my career working at a fire station, officers say, you know, forget this place. They're working me to the bone and I'm getting the same money if I go to a place that's a third as busy. And I've seen police officers that were quality people serving the citizens of this community leave to places I never thought I would see an employee go, because they will have a much better workload, or they're much more able to handle the workload being forced for them to work, if that makes sense.
Not a follow-up, but maybe the chief can answer that question, because when we talk about culture, training, everything else that come to play with the work-life balance, all these are elements of keeping our employees healthy, happy, and of course striving. I just wanted to know, because you did a great work stating the why behind it, especially talking about collaboration and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Let me add my thanks.
Thank you.
You for coming up to testify, and also thank you for protecting us.
Thanks so
You
much.
and all your colleagues every day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would anyone else like to testify? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing on item 32B closed. Madam City Clerk, item 32C.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $160,000 in the general fund as a transfer out to capital for structure preservation of the Concord stables, authorizing the use of general fund unassigned fund balance for this purpose, appropriating the sum of $160,000 in the Concord Stables redevelopment project, and authorizing the use of $160,000 for this purpose as a transfer from the general fund.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. City Manager.
The honorable members of the council, the Concord Stable building is located at 111.5 Warren Street. It was constructed in 1905 to serve as the city Department of Public Works building, and it was replaced by the Combined Operation Maintenance Facility at 311 North State Street in 1990. At that time, it was then turned over to the Concord School District in the mid-90s, shortly thereafter, the mid-90s, which in turn developed a property into a parking lot in support of the Concord High School. So when the Concord High School addition was put on, they needed additional parking, so the property was transferred. In November 29th of 2021, the city reacquired the historic former stables together with a half-acre of property, 9 parking spaces from the Concord School District for the purpose of redevelopment. Potential uses include a museum, storage facility for the horse-drawn wagons, carriages, and other vehicles, which are manufactured by the Abbott Downing Company. The Abbott Downing Company was based in Concord and is famous for the iconic Concord coach, which you see on many of the patches of the police and fire department. It's and general services. City desires to renovate the former Concord Stables building for adaptive reuse, which will initially include the removal and mitigation of hazardous materials prior to construction. Due to the presence of hazardous materials, the site is classified as a brownfield. It is eligible for potential grant funds from the state and federal government. In accordance with recent city approvals, city administration will be applying for cleanup grants from US EPA. However, if awarded, the funding will not be available until fiscal year 26. In the meantime, the building is vacant and deteriorating due to the aging roof materials as well as vandalism. City staff regularly monitors the building and has identified roof leaks that could lead to further issues, including mold. In addition, city staff has had run-ins with trespassers that regularly break into the building to use the space. Staff has concerns of potential impacts for the historic building with this illicit use. Staff requests funding to place security cameras and a new wireless fire alarm for improvements to entry points, including new doors at the windows to deter break-ins and to reduce deterioration, and funding for hazardous material mitigation and renovation. So essentially to button up the building until we receive federal grants to be able to renovate it. And eventually, as you know, the City Council has talked about making a museum for our Concord coaches here. And obviously, this would help both police and fire department who regularly have to respond to this building for public safety issues. So the request is for the dollars, and again, this requires a 2/3 majority vote.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Any questions for the City Manager? Councilor Brown.
Yes, I'm just wondering, how did we get to the number 160? What, do we have
Yes.
kind of an accounting of what that will be? Thank you.
Mr. Walsh?
Good evening. The city has 2 on-call construction managers, general contractors that were selected through a competitive process, and the pricing was derived through conversations with those folks. So we do have a proposal in hand from one of them, which was where this 160 was derived from.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Walsh or the City Manager? All right. Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I'll open item 32C to public testimony. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on item 32C. Madam City Clerk, item 32D.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $73,000 for the purpose of offsetting personnel costs for the police department to assign an officer to the Drug Task Force and accept the sum of $73,000 in grant funding from the State of New Hampshire Department or Attorney General's Drug Task Force.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
The other members of the council, I would normally present this, but I'm going to put him on the spot, and I didn't ask him. John, would you come up and talk to this for a second, and then I'd like to thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Deputy Chief.
Just very briefly, John.
This one.
Yes, and then you can talk all you want about the rest of the stuff.
So for this position, we would loan an officer to the Attorney General's task force. With that one officer, we're getting another 6 officers. So it's offset with. So this figure 73 is because we're already halfway through the year, but it would be normally 80,000. And it's obviously non-matching grant.
Right, thank you. Any questions for Deputy Chief Thomas? Councilor Kurtz.
I did not understand we give 1 officer and we get 6. Could you just
So the
elaborate on
task
that for
force
folks
is
who may be confused as I am?
Yeah, so the task force is made up of different officers throughout the state. So by us loaning an officer to the task force, when we need the officers to help out, there's other individuals that will come into the city to help us with our drug investigations.
Thank you. Now I understand.
I'm sorry.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for asking the question. That's great. Any other questions? Councilor Secretary.
Thank you, John. So my question is, you said because we are half of the year, and this is going to be a yearly routine, or this is just for this one term?
No,
if
so
that makes sense.
So the 80,000 would be every year that we're part of the task force.
That we decide to be part of the task force.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chief, can you just speak to the task force? Is there just one at the state level or at a regional task force, or?
So there's multiple throughout the state. So we would be part of what's considered the metro, the central, but they have a northern team, they have a southern team, have a seacoast team. So all those teams are made up of officers from those particular regions, like so whether they're a county or they're a seacoast department or they're a northern department. And so part of the central is mostly all, Merrimack County, officers from the Attorney General's office. And so when it depends on the size of the investigation, they can reach out to all those different entities throughout the state. So at any one time, you could have 20-plus officers if we needed them.
Follow up. And I think I know the answer to the question, but I'll say it just for public sake. There's some huge advantage to having a regional investigation on these drug cases because they're not always based in Concord, but they affect Concord in a very big way.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Deputy Chief Thomas? Mr. City Manager, did you want to make remarks?
Do you have anything else you wanted to? Or are you good?
I'm good. I don't know if a lot of you've heard, I'm retiring at the end of the month. So December 31st is my last day.
So this would be his last meeting, I wanted him to come forward.
Put him on the spot, of course.
So I want to thank the city for everything. The last 31 years it's been a dream for me. It's not I'm leaving because of I don't like the job. I still love the job, but I think if I don't leave now, I don't think I'll ever leave.
Feel free to tell us the truth.
And the bad side of that is?
I'll always find an excuse to stay, so I think this is the right time for me. I think the city's been very, very generous to me and my family. I don't think I'd be able to have the life that I did if it wasn't for the city. And I want to thank all of you. And I'm sure some of you that are new to the council, after a few years, you realize what I'm talking about.
Not too young.
Thanks.
How's the hockey team looking? How's the hockey team looking?
Doing all right. We had our first win the other night, a scrimmage. So they're doing all right. So still short numbers, but they did all right, though. So.
John, I have to say that that for a brief moment, you brightened up a 5-hour layover in Baltimore when you called me, and then you made it even worse layover by telling me your news. But let me, on behalf of the council, thank you for the service you provided to this city all these years, for your leadership in the department, for your humor, for your attention to good policing. You will be missed, and although what you're retiring into sounds exciting for you, so we wish you all the best, and we extend our extreme gratitude to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I told him I was going to do that, then he would have found a way to.
An era.
So we are still on item 32D. Are there any other questions for the city manager from the city council? In that case, I'll open the public hearing on this item. Is there anyone who'd like to testify on item 32D? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing on item 32D. Madam City Clerk, item 32F. I'm sorry, E. I don't have my glasses on.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title II, Traffic Code, Chapter 18, Parking, specific to modifying parking requirements and bus stop locations on Canal Street and Fisherville Road in Pennacook.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Could I ask Mr. Thompson to come forward and speak to this one, being that he's most intimate with...
You don't have any news for us, Mr. Thompson.
I do not. Thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. This ordinance is a combination of two different projects. First is with the near completion of the Canal Street Riverfront Park and the streetscape improvements that have taken place. We are now putting in place the appropriate parking requirements for the on-street parking and the municipal parking lot adjacent to the park on Canal Street, taking into account the reservations for both the tenants of the Village Street apartment there and the Chief's Restaurant. The second part of this ordinance is the bus stop location both on Canal Street at the park and secondarily, per the TPAC recommendation, a relocation of a bus stop across from the Tanager Way project on Fisherville Road to accommodate both this project and the upcoming residential development across the street.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Thompson? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Questions for the city manager? All right. In that case, I'll open item 32E for a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to testify on item 32E? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 32F.
It is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title V Administrative Code, Chapter 31, Purchasing and Contract Procedures, Article 31-1, Purchasing Procedure, and Section 31-1-3, Purchasing Procedures.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
The honor members of the council, you have a report from our purchasing manager, Tina Waterman. Essentially, purchasing dollar amount thresholds were last amended in 2017, and since that time, there have been significant change in market conditions. We've seen a steep price increases for supplies, materials, equipment, and services. City departments often find it difficult to obtain 3 quotes from qualified service providers. Increasing purchasing threshold would save time and money for user departments and purchasing staff. Limited purchases increase the dollar amount threshold from $5,000 to $10,000. Several other New Hampshire municipalities of similar in size to Concord have already increased it. This represents on average about 2% of all purchasing transactions and 1.7% of the total dollar value. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the city manager? All right, seeing none, I'll open this item to public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to testify? All right, seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 32G.
It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application in an amount of up to $25,000, appropriating the sum of $25,000 to conduct a planning and feasibility study for families in transition to perform an analysis of potential space for additional low-income housing at 9 Fellows Avenue and 5 Market Lane, and accepting the sum of $25,000 in community development block grant funds for this purpose.
Madam City Clerk, my intent was if nobody has an objection to combine the public hearings for 32G and 32H since they relate to the same project.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
So the next item is a resolution adopting an anti-displacement and relocation policy statement and procedures in support of the city's community development block grant application to the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority to support families in transitions planning grant to perform an analysis of potential space for additional low-income housing at 9 Fellows Avenue and 5 Market Lane.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager.
Members of the council asked Mr. Thompson to come forward, and this you'll note that these reports very well done, but they're very much in compliance with the city council's multi-year effort to increase housing in the community, particularly focused on affordable and low-income housing. So, Tim, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the council, as you are aware and have heard me on multiple occasions with community development block grant projects, there is a required set of procedures that I have to read into the record in order to be compliant with federal guidelines. So I will first note that there is an informational document in the back of the room for anybody who is interested. The community development block grant funds are available to municipalities through New Hampshire, the Community Development Finance Authority. Up to $500,000 annually is available for economic development projects, up to $500,000 for public facility projects, and up to $500,000 for housing projects. $500,000 for emergency activities. Up to $25,000 is available per planning study grant. This is actually the second time that I've been before the council in recent months for a planning study grant. The most recent one was for the Community Justice Center several months ago. All projects must directly benefit a majority of low and moderate income individuals. This is a proposed application to the Community Development Finance Authority for up to $25,000 in CDBG planning study funds. Of the grant funds, up to $3,500 would be retained by the city for administrative costs associated with the project, and up to $21,500 of the funds would be subgranted to families in transition to determine the feasibility of renovating unused and unutilized community space and former commercial space at their properties located at 9 Oddfellows Avenue and 5 Market Lane and Bicentennial Square to potentially develop into 2 to 3 additional living units on those projects. In terms of the anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan, this plan outlined measures under the Uniform Relocation Act required for all CDB projects to involve any displacement or relocation of persons or businesses. If the city were to undertake a CDB project that involved displacement or relocation, we would have to follow this plan. The plan outlines measures that we would take to find compatible, suitable housing for persons or businesses displaced or relocated. There is no displacement or relocation anticipated in this planning study. There may be at some point when, if this project were to move forward into construction, but for the planning study, there is no relocation assistance anticipated as part of this project. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I know we have representatives from families in transition in the audience if there are any specific questions for them.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any questions for Mr. Thompson? Looks like you were thorough. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
I will now open item 32G and 32H to a public comment, public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify on either of these items? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing on items 32G and 32H closed, and this moves us to a public hearing action item. Madam City Clerk, item 33.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $500,000 for the construction of a new skate park at Kiwanis Riverfront Park and accepting the sum of $500,000 of land and water conservation fund grants for this purpose.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. The Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee has been working with the skate group, I don't know, Dave, for 2-3 years at this point. This group has really been very excited, really thoughtful in wanting to make improvements to the existing skate park and to have something that'll become a destination for others. They've been a really great group, really enthusiastic about trying to raise some funds so that that they can match this grant. So I'm very much in support of this. I think it's going to be a great project. It's part of a much larger plan to do work at Kiwanis Park. So I hope you will all support this.
Councilor, any other comments? Councilor Brown.
I just spoke with Ted Rice today, who is one of the key leaders of the skate park group, and he shared with me that it's actually been 5 years because he remembers they had masks on. It might have been before you came on to Parks and Rec, Counselor. But it's been a long process, and in the meantime, New Hampshire has kind of developed, there are other skate parks in other cities, and they have this, the skate park group has a vision of linking them all together, which is really exciting because I do feel like it is a very inclusive sport. So I am in full support of this project.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors wish to comment? Seeing none, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favor of approving the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it by the required two-thirds vote. Two-thirds majority, I'm sorry. Madam City Clerk, item 34.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $405,000 for police department retention payments for sworn police officers and authorizing the use of general fund balance of $405,000 for this purpose.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Brown.
Your Honor, I will be recusing myself from this as my husband is a police officer.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other? Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I will be supporting this. I know I raised some concerns the last time we did this, and they're the same sort of concerns I have now, which is I think we have a larger problem with recruitment and retention, and I think we need to think about whether there's other things we can do besides throwing money at the issue to try and resolve it. I know it's not just us. I know there's departments all across the state that are struggling with the same thing. But I think we need to start to have a larger conversation about what we need to do to make the profession more attractive and to attract candidates who are going to be great police officers here in Concord. And so I would suggest that part of that conversation probably needs to start at the Public Safety Committee, because when we did this last time, it was sort of a stopgap measure. I think we expected we probably would have to do it this year as well, but I really want to solve the fundamental issue if we can, and not just keep throwing money after it.
Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Go to Councilor Fennessy's point. I think this is more about just money, and I do have to make the point that I really saw this whole thing start several years ago when we heard all this nonsense about defunding the police department. And since then, it's just gotten worse. And so I think it's vitally important as a community that we publicly and vocally support our police department, and I think that can only help to the recruitment and retention efforts.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sekou. I'm sorry, Councilor Grady.
I will go after.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Councilor Fennessy, for your remarks. I agree. At our last Public Safety Advisory Board meeting, we discussed the need to speak about these issues more holistically, and also to address the issues related to recruitment and retention with our fire department as well. So I look forward to continuing to have those conversations.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sekou.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to say what Councilor Fennessy and Amanda said, because I think at the end of the day, an issue should be diagnostic, and I asked that question earlier. What is really the real issue? Because we can pay people, but if really they are not receiving the proper training, or if they are not fitting in the culture, whatever reasons, but I think we really need to dig deeply to know where this money is going when we talk about retention, because we just heard retention. We don't even know what that meant. Is it paying them more? Is it investing in their training? Is it investing in the culture and the moral of the department? What is it? I think it's very important for the public to know what that would look like, so that we can go to the root cause of the problem. Thank you, Fennessy, and thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hertz.
Thank you. Are you sure? Mayor Champlin, Honorable Mayor Champlin. I'm very glad to hear the Public Safety Advisory Board is engaging in these conversations. I echo Councilor Fennessy's concerns that the stopgap financial measure will be necessary in perpetuity if we don't get creative in looking at how to better handle the challenges to our staff. And I'm also thinking of the success of the social worker that was presented to us last month, and that is a great example of thinking about the needs of the police department and the types of calls that are coming in and meeting those needs. I'd like to request that Public Safety Advisory, in conjunction with the police department, present some sort of report in some number of months to us, so that we don't find ourselves here again in a year without data. I think that data is being collected. I would just like to be aware of it and understand what's happening as things move forward.
Councilor Grady,
Sure. Just as a follow-up, the police department as well as the fire department do present the Public Safety Advisory Board as well as the full council on a yearly basis, and that, I believe, will be presented in March or April.
Great. So
it will include that information.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Creighton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate all the comments at the table. I think that collectively, we're all recognizing when it comes to public safety, police or fire, that the job itself has changed in the 31 years that Chief Thomas. JT. Thomas, I don't know, I just call you by one thing, sir. Since he's been here, policing has changed. So has the fire department. The manner by which we fight fires, the volume of calls that we have, it's changed dramatically, and we haven't seen the population grow enough to see the amount of call volumes grow. I would also remind, this is not the only place we're seeing shortages. General Services was just here last month because we have CDL drivers, which are now unicorns, no matter where you go. In the United States, unicorn CDL drivers are like all the rage. You can drive by the Conf and see the sign right on the bus that they need bus drivers. This is a problem that is beyond just the police and fire. I think that we do need a holistic view, but also to keep in mind that other areas of the city are also seeing critical shortages. Nothing could be more important than supporting our police and fire, because it does go directly to community safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Horn.
I would like to reiterate what everyone's saying, but more what Councilor Kurtz is saying, having an actionable, I don't know if I need to offer an amendment for an actual actionable item, so that we're not just receiving a report on the calls, but somebody, whether it's city staff or public safety, is working to see what these calls are. Is there an opportunity to have perhaps different staffing that isn't police officers, like the social workers, mental health workers, homelessness outreach workers, actually working on a solution to this, because it's not stopgap if we're doing it year after year. And if we're gonna do it year after year, we need to be transparent and simply build it into the budget, so that we're not coming to this halfway through the budget season every year. So should there be an amendment to ask for something actionable?
I think that your comments are noted, and certainly the chairman of the Public Safety Advisory Board has heard that. So I think that you've gone on record as expressing that desire. Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with all the comments that I've heard from my colleagues here tonight, and I just want to point out to folks, if they're not aware of it, that in fact the two biggest budgetary expenses in the city of Concord are police and fire departments. And there's a good reason for that. When I go out into the community and I talk to people, they are very willing to spend their taxpayer dollars on police and fire. I don't see a resistance. I don't see, as Councilor Keach had referenced earlier, any kind of defund the police efforts within the folks in the community. I think they value the services that they're receiving. I know I certainly value all of the efforts of our police and fire officers on a daily basis covering our city. And I think that going forward, we should examine, as was discussed here tonight, a better way of going about funding this. But I do think that, certainly from my point of view, in Pennacook, folks would like to see a substation back in Pennacook. Folks would like to see officers on a foot patrol back in Pennacook. They remember the old days when they saw that. They feel comfortable. They like that. So I don't think that there is really a maximum effort that we could be providing in terms of support for police and fire. But I think there probably is a more economical and smarter way of going about doing it. And I'm sure we'll get to that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fennessy.
I was just going to say, I think my primary concern really is being able to recruit enough officers and retain enough officers so that we can have a full complement of staffing, which we have not had except for, I think, 30 seconds?
30 minutes.
30 minutes, sorry, 30 minutes a couple of years ago. What I'm really concerned about is that we are going to be sort of in a long-term sort of spiral where we're understaffed, we're trying to keep the people we have, but then they're getting overworked, and then we get more understaffed, and it becomes sort of we're chasing our tail almost. And, you know, if we can't staff at the level where people can have a semblance of a work-life balance, then, you know, we're going to struggle to provide the level of services that our community desires and expects. And so if we want to avoid that, I think we have to start thinking about what can we do to make sure that for the people who want to go into the police or fire service, that they want to come here as opposed to any other community in New Hampshire.
Mr. City Manager.
So just add a few history pieces here. This has always been a two-phase thing. So when the council voted to do this before, they knew there was going to be a phase 2 to this. So it was just that some of the council was not here for phase 2. It was fully discussed at that time that that's what took place. And the reason you did it in 2 phases was because you were hoping that you wouldn't need phase 2. But the thought was you were going to need phase 2, and you did the analysis at that time to make sure you had the dollars to do that. That's one. And the second part of this is the reason it's not funded as part of the budget is because you knew you had existing reserve dollars that you wanted to tackle this with. You did not want to have it go onto the taxpayers and have additional tax rate increases for Pennacook or for Concord, and you would pay it out of your reserve fund to do this. So recognize that. Part two. Part three was you knew you were doing a wage study for all the police officers and police staff, so you knew this would be a temporary thing, and then when you get the information relative to the wage study that's going on right now, you would, if it was necessary, you would build that in to the wages of when you do the contracts for the discussion. So you did look at this forward, just to remind you, and this was all planned out exactly the way it was. But the hope was that the chief would not have to come forward and say, hey, I need that part two, because he'd be fully staffed. Well, hope against hope, that's not where we are, and therefore that's why you have phase two. If we didn't need to bring this forward, I would have come to you and said, forget the phase two, we don't need to do this, and we're golden, but we're not. So neither is anybody else.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilor Grady second.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say one last piece, which is that this is a national problem that we're seeing. Of course, it's certainly a big problem here in our community in New Hampshire, and I, have faith that we'll be able to do what we always do in New Hampshire, which is scrape together all the resources that we have, because there's few. So.
Thank you. Any other? Let me say I'm glad to hear the expressions of support for our police department and our fire department around this table. I think that one of the challenges that both departments have faced is recruiting qualified candidates. We've heard that many times. And one of the things that makes me proudest about our departments is that we have not lowered our standards. Other police departments certainly around the country have lowered their standards, and they've made the national news headlines because the wrong people have been put in positions of policing. I think our department has done an excellent job of trying as hard as they can to fill their positions, at the same time maintaining a high standard of candidate that is qualified to do the job and can do a good job and understands community policing. So I certainly will be supporting this measure and looking forward to the department and its leadership, trying to find those outside the box ways of creating a better work-life balance, but also making Concord the place where firefighters, paramedics, police officers want to work and want to stay. So I'll put this to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please. I'm sorry, Councilor Horn.
Sorry, I just had one question. In the recommendation, it had $405,000 for officer retention and retroactive overtime. Have we not paid some overtime? Well, how do we have retroactive overtime?
Mr. City Manager.
Stephen can.
Yeah. Deputy Chief Magula.
Yeah.
So the retroactive.
Chief, come right here so that the people at home can see you and hear you.
I don't think they can miss him.
So the compensation, the retro money is for a period that's already transpired. So what you have is you have officers that have worked overtime. So this is actually retroactive to the overtime that they worked.
Right, that's what I'm not understanding. Do we not pay them the overtime they earned?
Nope. So 5,000 is earnable compensation. So that would have been adjusted in their overtime rate had they had it during that period. So this is a look back for hours that have already been worked. We had reached out to the New Hampshire retirement system to double check on this, and we were told that because they were aware this bonus existed, that it had to be adjusted for their time and a half that they had already worked, that they did not get paid the small adjustment due to this $5,000.
Follow up? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We ready for a vote? All those in favor, I will note that Councilor Brown is recusing herself, as she indicated at the start. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it by the required 2/3 majority. Madam City Clerk, item number 35.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $160,000 in the general fund as a transfer out to capital for structure preservation at the Concord Stables, authorizing use of general fund unassigned fund balance for this purpose, appropriating the sum of $160,000 in the Concord Stables redevelopment project, and authorizing the use of $160,000 for this purpose as a transfer from the general fund.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think this is a prudent use of our resources to ensure that this historic building is protected until the moment when it can be used, hopefully as a museum for the Abbott Downing Society's excellent collection of Abbott Downing horse-drawn vehicles. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it by the required 2/3 majority. Madam City Clerk, item 36.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $73,000 for the purpose of offsetting personnel costs for the police department to assign an officer to the Drug Task Force and accept the sum of $73,000 in grant funding from the State of New Hampshire Attorney General's Drug Task Force.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councilor Brown.
Yes, I will also be recusing myself from this item because my husband is still a police officer.
Thank you, Councilor. Any discussion? All right, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the resolution passes by the required 2/3 majority. Madam City Clerk, item 37.
It is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title II Traffic Code, parking specific to modifying parking requirements in bus stop locations on Canal Street and Fisherville Road in Pennacook.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 38.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title V Administrative Code, Chapter 31 Purchasing and Contract Procedure, Article 31-1 Purchasing Procedure, Section 31-1-3 Purchasing Procedures.
Move approval.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I just want to say briefly that this was considered by the Fiscal Policy Advisory Committee, and we determined that this was a reasonable change to the policy.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 39.
It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application in an amount of up to $25,000, appropriating the sum of $25,000 to conduct a planning and feasibility study for families in transition to perform an analysis of potential space for additional low-income housing at 9 Fellows Avenue and 5 Market Lane, and accepting the sum of $25,000 in community development block grant funds for this purpose.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 40.
It's a resolution adopting an anti-displacement and relocation policy statement and procedures in support of the city's community development block grant application to the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority to support families in transitions planning grant to perform an analysis of potential space for additional low-income housing at 9 Fellows Avenue and 5 Market Lane.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. This moves us to reports. Madam City Clerk, item 41.
It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a donation of real estate from Stephen Dupree to Granite Place LLC located at Rumford Street and Pennacook Street.
Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Mr. Walsh to come forward, and we were going to have Mr. Dupree come forward, but it's snowing. So he was here earlier, and then he left because it's snowing. So I'd like to.
Good for him.
You all have the report in front of you. We won't draw it out because it's snowing. The request is, well, Matt, do you want to?
Mr. Walsh.
Long story short, Mr. Dupree, through a limited liability company called Two Granite Place LLC, is the owner of certain real estate that's associated with the former Lincoln Financial Complex that's located over at the intersection of Pennacook and Rumford Street. And there are 4 parcels that are involved. Mr. Dupree owns 3 of them. One of them was recently conveyed to the state of New Hampshire back in April a 6.41 acre parcel with part of the office building, not all of it, that is over there. Mr. Dupree has offered to donate a certain parcel of land, which I want to say is about 27 acres. Let's pull up the report here for a second.
27.92.
27.92 to be specific, thank you. To donate that to the city of Concord for future redevelopment or future development as an undeveloped parcel that's located at the intersection of Rumford and Pennacook Street. Essentially, Mr. Dupree, if this goes forward, which is going to be subject to a title review and review of the status of property taxes for the property, has asked that the city consider divesting of all portions of that property for future development by others, in part to replace the tax base of that property that was sold to the state of New Hampshire. It gives the city control over that property, which is desirable to ensure that any future development that may occur there is consistent with the wishes of the neighborhood, what the city thinks is a community need. And it also gives us the opportunity to time all of this vis-a-vis future, hopefully forthcoming city master plan update, which will be discussed during the FY26 budget process. So that is part one. If the city, not if, when the city divests of all or a portion of the property for development, the city would be able to retain those revenues. Mr. Dupree has asked that the revenues be used to address a community need or program that is not otherwise addressed, so to speak, as noted in the staff report. And the city would be able to retain those proceeds. Lastly, any portions of the property that might be divested of would be subject to a deed restriction requiring payment in lieu of tax or for agreement for any entity that may acquire the property that might be tax exempt. That's something that the city does customarily for any real estate that we own and sell on to other parties for development. We've done it for many years, so we're comfortable with that. But again, so that's the third piece. All Mr. Dupree is trying to arrange this by the end of this year because of certain tax benefits that would accrue to him and his LLC related to federal income tax. We're not sure if that's actually going to happen though, because of the title review for the property as well as some other issues that will need to be addressed. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I'm sorry.
But I'll just add, there's a lot of work still to be done on this, but we wanted to bring it to you in advance before that we undertake all that work, make sure that you're still in line with this, everything from the title work to actually what pieces of property are could be going which way, that's still in flux, but we wanted you and the community to become aware of this, that we're looking at this.
So, City Manager, this is basically free land that would be able to put back on the tax rolls.
That's correct, and we're trying to see how to arrange
How
such
that might be arranged. Right. Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Walsh, I understand you're not an appraiser, but what would you estimate the value of that parcel to be at?
I do not have an updated value for that parcel because actually I don't have a value with me at all, but one of the things that's complicating that is because it was recently subdivided after April 1st, and part of it was conveyed to the state of New Hampshire after April 1st. The assessing records have not been updated for that parcel yet because they'd be picked up this coming April 1st of 2025 for tax purposes. So I do not have a value for the property.
Follow up.
Thank you, Your Honor. Secondly, as I understand this proposal, because the property would be conveyed to the city, we maintain some control and in theory, the state would not be able to develop it. Is that accurate? So it could potentially go back on the tax rolls?
So this 27-acre parcel, if you look at the map that's in your packet, it's lot number 3, which is highlighted in a pink outline. We would control basically the destiny of that property, and the council or a future council would make a decision about what they feel the highest and best use is for the community vis-a-vis economic development goals, community development goals, what the neighborhood feels is appropriate for their neighborhood, and other considerations that are attached to that property. So yes, long story short, it creates the opportunity for us to drive the future of that property and hopefully and develop some additional tax base when a buyer or buyers are selected for portions or all of the property.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Fennessy.
You mentioned that the goal goal is to get this done by the end of the year. Are there any restrictions or contingencies where if this doesn't get done by the end of the year, we would not get the property?
So I think at this point, Mr. Dupree is still committed to working with the city to do this. However, there are some title and taxation issues that might not be able to be resolved by the end of the year. And in talking with him very quickly today, he suggested that this may actually have to be delayed until from a year from now. But he indicated he was committed to trying to work through those issues and to have the city be the recipient of the gift. So that's the latest I had today as of about 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Walsh, I guess that with regard to the contingency item, that the proceeds of the sale of the real estate would be set aside for use, certain uses by the city. In your opinion, you feel that, or Mr. Spell can speak to that as well, is that open and wide enough that would give us a lot of flexibility in terms of being able to expend those funds in different ways? Do you think that there's a significant restriction there, or is it pretty loose?
Correct me if I'm wrong, man. The idea was when we talked to Mr. Dupree that to leave that as open as possible. His biggest concern was that it wouldn't just fall to general revenue and be taken in as a resource and then go to the bottom line. He wanted it to be, he wanted the council to make a determination on how best to use it for the community. So really, it was that wide. Was that?
Follow up, Your Honor. So it could be anything.
Could be anything.
Whatever the council would decide would be appropriate in that.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Walsh? All right, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you. I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Moved and seconded. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion passes. This moves us to items pulled from the consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, item 23.
It's a Beaver Meadow 2025 Senior Membership Rate Correction Report from the Deputy City Manager and Finance. It was pulled from the consent agenda by Councilor Brown.
Thank you. This chair recognizes Councilor Brown.
Thank you. So I just want to point out that this is based on the Golf Course Advisory Committee had stated they wanted it to be lower, but they're an advisory committee. And we had discussions when we made that decision in August. At that time, we talked about how there are no resident, non-resident fees for memberships. And I remember looking at different membership rates, and the member rates at Beaver Meadow are $800 less than other golf courses. And I just looked before this meeting, and the senior rate is almost $1,100 less, and that's keeping it at the $1,395. So I do not think that it is unreasonable to keep it at this rate. At the last, I believe it was the building committee meeting, there was a member there, an elderly gentleman by the name of Carl, and he had said that, you know, when he goes to Beaver Meadow, he sees a lot of people from Bow playing. And on the Beaver Meadow Golf Course website, it talks about these are the rates no matter where you live. People just got their tax bills. And I think that, yes, the rate went up. It went up $100 the year before. It's another $100. Costs are going up, and we have services that we need to pay for, and this is what it costs. So I can appreciate that it's a higher rate, but if we are not going to start charging non-residents more, then I think all members should expect to pay more.
Thanks, Councilor. Any other discussion? Councilor Credit.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move approval and acceptance of the report.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Okay. Ayes have it.
Excuse, Your Honor, that I would request that we have a roll call of that, because it sounded very much as though the noes had it to me.
Very well. We'll put it to
Thank
a roll
you.
call vote. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Brown.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, could you repeat the
Motion?
the vote? Yes, the motion.
The motion was to approve approve the report and recommendation of the Golf Course Advisory Committee to reduce the senior season's pass by $100. I believe that the explanation was that they did not intend to increase the fees for retirees, for seniors, on fixed incomes. And so they recommended that we readjust that at this point. Am I correct?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Madam City Clerk.
Counselor Brown?
No.
Mayor Champlin?
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy?
Yes.
Counselor Foote?
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton?
Yes.
Counselor Horn?
No.
Counselor Keach?
Yes.
Counselor Kretovic?
Yes.
Counselor Kurtz?
No.
Counselor McLaughlin is not here. Counselor McNamara?
Yes.
Counselor Schlosser?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Sekou?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Yes.
So it passes 12 to 2.
12 to 3.
Excuse me, so sorry. 11 to 3. My counting skills are a little.
No, that's okay. But you're a great city clerk. All right, thank you. This moves us to suspense items. I'll request a motion to suspend the rules for suspense item number 1, a referral to the Transportation Policy Advisory Committee.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of suspending the rules to consider this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion passes by the required 2/3 majority. Madam City Clerk.
It is a communication from Alyssa Jelly requesting consideration be given for traffic safety improvements at the intersection of Broadway and South Main Street in Concord.
Thank you. Councilor Schlosser, would you like to speak to this?
So this resident, there was a traffic accident running into their house the second time in a year. And I think, so this is a potentially dangerous intersection. So I've requested that this request from the resident be considered by the Traffic Policy Advisory Committee. They do an assessment and make a recommendation.
Thank you, Councilor. Let me add that, I also visited the Jelly House and was there while they were moving things. This is a part of Broadway where it moves into South Main Street. Thank you. And there have been repeated, some of the residents have put stones, granite pillars and things in front of their houses because this has happened in the past to others. I support, Councilor Schlosser request that this be referred. I think it'd be good to take a look, particularly since in July their garage was hit, and then this month or in November, I can't remember whether it was December or November, a car drove into the house and caused significant damage to their foundation. So, Councilor Todd.
Yeah, thank you, and I want to thank Councilor Schlosser for bringing this forward. My suggestion would be that in addition to referring it to the Transportation Policy Advisory Committee, to also refer it to Traffic Operations Committee as well.
Certainly. Councilor
Will
Grady
that
Sexton.
slow down the process in terms of recommendation to council, I'm wondering?
I can speak to that, Your Honor.
Yes.
Usually, Traffic Operations meets before Transportation Policy Advisory Committee, so it'll happen probably in the same month. So Traffic Ops will have met, had a discussion about it, and then that information can be brought forth at the TPAC meeting.
We'll run them concurrently.
Great, thank you so much.
Super.
Thank you for that recommendation.
Any further discussion? May I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion passes.
As amended or with Councilor?
As amended.
Yeah,
As amended.
the clerk took it.
Thank you.
I didn't feel it was necessary to make a formal.
Thank you.
Because.
Thank you.
I got it.
Because she's got it. All right. Next, suspense item 2, which is a proposed agreement between the Granite United Way and the City of Concord. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules in order to consider this item.
So moved. Second.
Right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes by the required 2/3 majority. I could speak to this, and perhaps Councilor Schlosser would like to as well. Earlier in the year, the steering committee on the city plan to end homelessness held a strategic planning session. The members of the committee, I believe there were members of the general public that participated as well, and safety services. And they came up with a list of 5 priorities. Some of the priorities included, increasing the number of units available in which to move people from homelessness, out of homelessness, eliminating veteran homelessness, communications with the public, and other similar goals. The steering committee created subcommittees that would work on these issues, but the leadership of the steering committee and the steering committee itself felt that because the members of the committee all have full-time jobs, the best way to achieve their goals would be to have someone who was essentially managing the process, keeping people moving forward, helping to schedule meetings, things of that nature. The members of the committee, Councilor Schlosser and Chairman Roseanne Haggerty, and I met with the Granite United Way, had very productive meetings. The Granite United Way offered to do 3 things. First of all, they offered to be a fiscal agent for fundraising for this. The funding would come from the public sector, the private sector rather, and nonprofits. They also agreed that they would work with the steering committee to raise the funds to hire this position for 2 years. And third, they offered to house this position, to recruit this individual, house this individual in their offices in Concord, provide office, provide electronics, all of that, and also manage payment of this individual with the funds raised by the steering committee. But the individual would report to the steering committee and would be responsible to the steering committee for fulfilling the role that they have set for us. So this would move forward without any city funds, and not be a new city employee, and again would be housed at Granite United Way. And I would just like to say thank you for Patrick Tufts, who is the outgoing CEO of Granite United Way, for working with us on this, and also Nicole Reimer, who is the incoming CEO and who is part of the original discussions from the start, who wants to work with us. I also would mention that the MOU has been fully vetted by the city management, by our city solicitor, prior to it being presented to the city council. Councilor Schlosser, would you like to add any?
Mayor, thank you. I think you've summarized it, but it's a great partnership and an ability to raise some funds for this important work for the project manager and for some other associated activities that I think the steering committee anticipates. So, anyway, I think you've summarized it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any questions or discussion? Councilor Kurtz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just am very excited about this. It sounds like you've all worked very hard to make it happen. I'm grateful to Granite United Way for partnering with the city. And, in the year that I've been on council, we've had a lot of conversations about the scope of homelessness in the city of Concord and how we might make big strides. And this feels like the first of a first big stride. And I know a lot of work happened behind the scenes to make it happen, so I just wanted to express my appreciation to everyone involved.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sekou.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I'm going to second what you just said, because I was sharing, because I am on Home for All committee, steering committee, and I just wanted to know, of course, they are going to be fiscal responsible for this work, but my question is, in any way, when are they going to come to the city, not to the steering committee, but the partnership that we have, what is our power or authority in that if we see things are not going the way we expected, or if we see things are not being like if the data collection or whatever we want to see, because at the end of the day, the responsibility of the city still part of the city leadership. So I want to know what was the agreement between those two, because it seemed like we are washing our hands and we let them out. I just want to know what that is.
Councilor Schlosser.
So thank you. I'd be glad to speak to that. So the steering committee will, through our minutes, reports what the conversations and the work is. And we have 5 work groups that are just being formed. They're only volunteers, and that's why we need the project manager to help support those work groups in the 5 areas. And we will report bi-monthly to the steering committee, and the minutes will be reported to the city council. And I would be happy to have the steering committee make more formal reports or take more council time, if you so desire, on both our plan for working forward and our progress. It's modest at this time, but I think we've got tremendous support. It's a great steering committee with broad support from the Chamber of Commerce and the nonprofits and the healthcare sector and mental health. So it's a great committee that's really trying to put their thinking caps on and say, we need to think about system improvement to prevent homelessness so that we can prevent it at the beginning, and for those who are homeless, really develop a system that will quickly get them rehoused. So I'm happy to be communicate in better, I think we could be in better communication with the council on both our plans and hopefully our progress in the future.
I'll just remind the council that the steering committee was created by the city council 11 years ago, in 2013. I first joined the council, and the members of the steering committee are in fact approved by the city council. So this is not a separate entity. This is in fact a committee that has been created by the city council. Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to speak about my support for this. I think it's a great public-private partnership. I think it's exactly the way it should happen. I know in Manchester they went at it in a different direction, and the city got involved in managing a shelter, and I think at this point they have regrets about that. So I think it's really important to let the professionals, the nonprofit professionals, to do their work, while at the same time maintaining policy control and direction at the committee level. So I think it's a perfect partnership.
Councilor Fennessy.
I'm good with the concept. My only complaint is just the process, since we did not get a copy of the agreement until 2 o'clock today. Personally, I like to have an opportunity to review any agreements that we're going to be asked to approve. You know, I was doing my homework this weekend. I don't have a lot of time between 2 and 5:30 to look at these things. So I know I've talked about the concept with Councilor Schlosser. I guess from my perspective, I'm not sure why we needed to do this under suspense. We're looking to raise money. If we would have started raising money next month versus this month, I'm not sure it would have had a significant impact. So that's my only complaint. The concept I'm good with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other, Councilor Sekou?
I just want to say thank you, Jim, and thank you everybody that has been involved, because Granite United Way does a good job, and the partnership, I'm excited about it and see what. But I love how you just proceed to let us know, because it's a committee that the city approved, that they will be updating the city about the progress, or the city is not like going to be on the unknown. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
Councilor Schlosser.
And I'll just acknowledge Councilor Fennessy's concern, and I totally support it, and I apologize to everyone for the late, but the negotiations took this long, and I think time is of the essence, and so the sooner we get to this, the sooner we get to this. And so anyway, I thank you for your forbearance in accepting this item under suspense.
Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded? All right. Any further discussion?
Yeah. I thought we voted, but anyway.
No, we voted to suspend the rules.
Consider it.
Right. So now we have to vote on the motion to approve the, authorizing the city manager to sign the MOU. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. We have suspense item number 3, which is a motion to unseal the minutes of city meetings regarding the Monitor Way project. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to entertain this. Councilor Schultz.
Second.
And seconded by Councilor Brady Sexton. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it by the required 2/3 majority. Councilor Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve and unseal the minutes relating to discussion between the city and Kevin Lacasse of New England Family Housing regarding the Monitor Way project during the following non-public meetings: September 12, 2022, November 14, 2022, December 12, 2022, June 12, 2023, August 14, 2023, September 11, 2023, June 10, 2024, and October 15, 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion passes. This moves us to comments by the City Council and the Mayor, City Councilors. Council Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. On last Friday, I'm sure everybody saw it in the manager's weekly memo on Facebook and plastered all over the place if you're part of the Ski the Beeve mail listserv. They made snow at River Meadow Golf Course on the driving range. What's even better is that not a single person complained about the noise. It literally ran just by a hose. It was no louder than a fan, and it created this beautiful white stuff that we didn't think we were going to get, and then all of a sudden we have it. But that's all good news. It's that time of year that the golf course and the property that's there, the acreage, it's really for cross-country skiing and for the community coming to really enjoy this space. There's a couple of really good organizations that run cross-country skiing, especially for the kids in the area. The only thing that we ask is stay to the trails. They are groomed. It's a wonderful partnership with Ski the Beeve and the Recreation Department. It's also the time of year where you can go out on the skating pond as soon as the Recreation Division says the ice is okay. But any evening, it's a perfect walk, especially if you want to see an unfiltered sky that doesn't have the light blocking or the light interfering with the stars that come out on a clear night. It's beautiful. It's the time of year to really come and enjoy the golf course. And don't forget, it's the holiday season, and we have a pro shop that is open, and it's a great time to buy something for your friends and loved ones for the holiday season. The last part is the Murano Trail is open for snowshoeing for those individuals. We don't do snowshoeing on the golf course because it can damage the grass, but you can snowshoe on the Murano Trail. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Ron. I have two items. First up is, although it's always a wonderful time to be in Pennacook, I think it's especially wonderful now. Our new branch library opened at its location at 76 Community Drive, so folks go out, check that out. And additionally, the fencing around the perimeter of the construction site of the new park, our Canal Street Riverfront Park, is going to be coming down, my understanding is sometime next week. In anticipation of that, on Monday, December 16th at noon, there will be a River Park walk and also just a kind of a preview for folks that want to attend and get a little tour of the park and what it's going to be like. So that's Monday, December 16th at noon. And I'll be there. Hope to see all you there. I know that Councilor Horn will be there with me as well. My second item is, I know that I just want to wish everybody happy holidays, happy and safe, wonderful holidays, and all the best for the new year. And I know that folks are out there and they want to go and do some drive-bys to see some seasonal decorations and so forth. So my recommendation for Pennacook is Elm Street. If you start at Horse Hill and you drive up Horse Hill and drive slowly, but all the way through Elm Street, all the way till you get to Village Street is a wonderful drive to see some great seasonal decorations. And then when you get to Village Street, then you just pull into town and you can do some shopping. Well, I don't know, Fox Hardware or Strings and Things or whatever. Get your final holiday shopping done, and all the other places there. Get some pizza at a restaurant locally, and have wonderful, safe holidays. So, thank you.
You should have a designated driver.
Well, it depends how much fun you want to have. But,
all right, I have a bunch of people. I saw Councilor Grady Sexton, but let's go around this way. Councilor Horn.
I'm just going to piggyback on what Councilor Todd said on the new Pennacook Library. I just want to make sure people understand the great options they have for programming. Mondays they have Cuddle Babies Lap Sit at 9:30 in the morning. They're moving having some senior programming on Tuesdays and Wednesday mornings, Thursday mornings as well. hopefully the Spark program will be up and running at some point, so free activities for children there. I think that's it. Also, I would just like to add that Primrose Lane and Winterberry are great with the lights set to music. So if you're in the, yeah, if you're, no, well, Borough, they stopped that one. But, so if you're going through Pennacook, definitely stop over on that side too.
Let's see, we'll see. Councilor McNamara.
Just want to say the Parade of Lights was a new addition to our downtown activities this holiday, and it was a fun, good time. It's always good to see people bring their families down and partake in the events and the shops and the restaurants, so that was a good thing. Thank you for putting that up.
Yes, I'd just like to plug the movie that's playing at Red River Theater by Sam Habib and his dad, Dan. It's called The Ride Ahead, and it's really from his perspective as a disabled person. It's really fascinating, and it's wonderful, and just reinforces the belief that we need to hear from people with lived experience. He was talking about attending Concord High and NHTI, and that those were accessible to him. So I'm proud of our community for that. There's a lot of things that we can continue to do, and I want to make sure that we continue to have people with different backgrounds, different experiences at the table when we make our policies.
Thank you. Councilor Kurtz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say a preemptive thank you to General Services, as I've been watching the snowfall through this entire meeting.
Wait till you get home.
Yeah, I have seen the lights, so I know they've been working this entire time. I just want to remind everybody you can check the city website, or if you have the app on your phone, please be citizens in terms of parking bans, bring things up from the sidewalk, your trash bins and such when they go out, and please, please be safe. Slow down, look at the lights carefully, enjoy this season. I hope that when we're here next month, we've had, an incident-free winter season so far. Thank you.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to remind families that Concord Parks and Rec has school vacation hours, open gym that you should take advantage of while the kiddos are on winter break.
Thank you very much. Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to the lights in Pennacook and Borough Road in specific, the display is no longer on Borough Road because we lost a retired firefighter, Don Moore. So remember him during this holiday season. And out of respect and remembrance of him, not anything close to what he displayed, but quite a few of his items are displayed adjacent to McLeod's Flower Shop on South State Street. So they're doing a little bit of effort to remember him and his family. So he'll be missed.
Thank you.
Councilor Schlosser.
So I'd just like to let everybody know that tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock at the West Street Ward House, there will be our quarterly Ward 7 resident meeting, and Ward 7 residents are welcome and other city residents are welcome to attend.
Thank you. Councilor Sekou.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to talk about partnership again because I'm in the class of leadership Greater Concord, and I want to take this opportunity to say I was very impressed to see the police department and the Chamber of Commerce coming together for this collaboration, and I'm very grateful to see how they coordinate things and how the police department, this is for our ride along, which is part of our program, how flexible they were to change their schedule to accommodate hours so that they can do, so that we can learn from them what they do on their daily work. I'm more even impressed to see that this officer I ride with, CJ, it was enlightening to see when they stop people, the processes they go. And I am calling every police officer, I think, here to know that really he stated many things that still resonate to me. We stop people not only to give them tickets, but we stop people also to teach them. It's a moment of opportunity for us here in Pennacook to teach people. So it was I was very impressed, and I am very grateful for the opportunity to ride with him and to learn about, because each police officer is different. So I think we serve a greater city, we serve a diverse city, we serve a city that pay their bills, and to see each stop, he judged it based on the merits of the stop, which was amazing, and I'm very grateful. The other things that I want to mention here is New Hampshire Songa. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all the councilors that attended New Hampshire Sangha, and I hope that you guys learned something this year and more to come next year. Thank you. So the mayor, Councilor Brown, and then I don't pronounce your last name because I'm going to butcher it again. Jennifer, and of course myself. So thank you all.
It's Schultz.
Schultz.
Huh?
Counselor
No.
Schultz.
No,
No, I also
she
attended.
went
He
here
was
this
just-
time.
Oh, I was right
You can
this time.
join my family.
She attended. Counselor Schultz, I don't want to skip over you. You all set?
Strangely, I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Or not thank you, but all right. Counselor Foot.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Certainly want to just emphasize my thankfulness for John Thomas's service to this community over the last 31 years. As a great person, great service. Also, two other fine city employees are going to be retiring at the end of the month. Jim Major, the highway superintendent for general services, has been with the city since 1997. Had many interactions with him. He certainly represented the city well, along with Brian Levesque, the fleet manager. So we're talking about shortages and hiring and all those sorts of needs. So general services is going to have a big hole to fill at the end of the month. And lastly, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. I would like to recognize and thank Brian Blackton for the job he did on putting together the Heights Christmas parade, which was before Thanksgiving, as it always is, which always puts me, kind of a little funny. But it was a wonderful parade. Well, it's like disjointed. It was a wonderful parade. It had great floats and everything. Unfortunately, a couple of the bands canceled because rain was predicted, but nevertheless, the crowds were great. And it was a wonderful event. I also wanted to highlight the Parade of Lights. It was the first year for the Parade of Lights. I want to compliment Jessica Martin and in Concord for adding that to Midnight Merriment. It was just so much fun, and the floats, many of the floats were so imaginative, particularly the Pitchfork Records float, which was a gingerbread house with a vinyl record roof, and lights and everything. But it was great. Several of us marched in the parade. We were right behind Olaf and Anna and Elsa from Frozen. It was hard to see where the cartoon characters ended and the city councilors began, but other than that, we had a wonderful time. I also wanted to update the council on the DEIJB process. Take this opportunity. I wanted to let you know that, and I'm mentioning this because there have been questions, and I want to make sure folks are up to speed on what the committee has doing and what we're moving forward on. As you know, the city sent out an RFQ for proposals for a facilitator for the DEIJB, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice, and Belonging process, to work with the steering committee that's been created. We received 4 proposals. In the second round of sending out the RFQ, the RFQ was sent out for a second round so that we could try to receive some New Hampshire applicants. We did receive 1 applicant from New Hampshire, which was from a consortium of 3 organizations. The other 3 applications that we received in the second round were from out of state. They were the applicants who had sent in proposals previously. The DEIJB Executive Committee, which is myself, Mayor Pro Tem Sekou, and Councilor Kretovic, selected 3 finalists from the 4, and we developed a series of questions to be asked of each finalist. And we directed city staff to conduct interviews, as is the standard procedure in vetting vendors to be employed by or to be retained by the city. The same questions were asked of each vendor in the same order to ensure fairness. After the interviews, the executive committee met with the city manager to review the staff evaluation and ranking of each of those vendors. The DEIJB Executive Committee unanimously selected Racial Equity Group of Irving, Texas as our first choice. The Racial Equity Group has a team that has worked together for several years with a number of communities, including the cities of Melrose and Newton, Massachusetts, the towns of Lincoln and Melrose, and Melrose, Massachusetts, and the town of Windsor, Vermont. Racial Equity Group also currently is working with the Massachusetts Municipal Association to conduct a DEI maturity index of the 351 municipalities throughout Massachusetts. Upon their selection, the city manager opened Racial Equity Group's sealed bid for the project, which again is standard procedure. And it was found, the bid was found to be consistent with the target that was set in the RFQ. Subsequently, city staff negotiated a contract with REG. The full DEIJB steering committee is scheduled to meet tomorrow night, December 10th, with Bird Guest, the president and CEO of REG, who will be zooming in from Texas, to familiarize themselves with REG and its facilitation process. Happy to answer any questions. Councilor Brown.
Yes, so the RFQ went out twice, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the second time it was because the committee wasn't complete?
No, it was the second time it was sent out because we received no applications from any organizations in New Hampshire. And we wanted to, and we found that odd, and we wanted to take another swipe at it to make sure that we collected any applications from any New Hampshire organizations that were interested. Follow up.
So there were 3 listening sessions last year in May, and you took copious notes. What is happening with the results of those listening sessions?
Well, those will be folded into the whole process, Councilor. I mean, I think it's important that the facilitated process is going to hopefully dig deeper and perhaps even be targeted to certain specific groups, because DEI is about a variety of groups. It's about the community that works with different abilities. It's about the senior community. It's about the New American community. It's about the LGBTQ community. And we want to make sure that we fully understand and collect responses and feedback from all of those groups and others if they're out there. Follow up.
Yes, I've just received letters from folks who are very confused by this $40,000. What is the intention of this? I think, and I was confused as well because I thought we were moving forward with listening sessions and acting on those recommendations made by our residents at that time. And it seems like we're waiting for this consultant to then have more listening sessions when we could be acting on our citizens' recommendations now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like to move to adjourn.
I have one more item. But thank you.
Good try.
As you know, I've received a number of phone calls from people in the community about the recent display on City Plaza. So I'd like to clarify my position on it. I am disappointed that the city did in fact, support issuing a permit to the Satanic Temple for this holiday display, though I understand the reasoning of council on this issue. As the council knows, my preference was to deny the permit and accept the risk of the threatened lawsuit. I opposed the permit because I believe the request was made not in the interest of promoting religious equity, but in order to drive an anti-religious political agenda, and because I do not respond well to legal extortion, the threat of litigation. I also do not appreciate that this application was apparently endorsed by a state representative from Newmarket who directed the Satanic Temple's request to the State House, which in turn deflected the request to the city. Some on social media have celebrated the Satanic Temple's display as a victory for religious pluralism and a reflection of our growing diversity as a community. I disagree with this. This is about an out-of-state organization cynically promoting its national agenda at the expense of the Concord community. By definition, the Satanic Temple is not a religion. The Oxford English Dictionary defines religion as a belief in or acknowledgement of some superhuman power or powers, especially God or gods. On the contrary, the stated purpose of the Satanic Temple, which its website says has been in existence 11 years, is, quote, to preserve and advance secularism, which is fine, but that is not, in fact, a religion. That's the antithesis to a religion. Religious pluralism is indeed alive and well in Concord. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, others, world religions that have served millions over millennia are important parts of our community fabric. Most have made significant and deeply appreciated contributions to this city in community service and spiritual care. So if there is divisiveness in this issue, it is deliberately generated by the Satanic Temple in an attempt to promote its agenda during the holiday season. Its 7 tenets, many of them commendable, are really a smokescreen to provide an air of legitimacy for its deliberately provocative and disturbing effigy. In fact, considering its impact on Concord's holiday spirit, I think a more appropriate choice of effigy for the Satanic Temple would have been the Grinch. In light of the issues raised by this organization's application, I will in the near future be appointing an ad hoc committee to review city policies on unattended displays on City Plaza, and my aim is to have a defined policy in place before next December. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You should have had your question, but everybody went to.